Elon Musk has just offered $97 billion to buy OpenAI, the company that is behind ChatGPT. What does it say about DeepSeek, the Chinese breakthrough, the Chinese startup that threatens to end America's AI monopoly? It almost feels like a love triangle. Musk, OpenAI, and DeepSeek. And like in any love triangle, there are more questions than answers.
Do you think Musk's approach then is from a position of insecurity about XAI?
Probably his whole life is from a position of insecurity. I feel for the guy.
You feel for him?
I do, actually.
In this video, we're going to draw a surprising analogy from the distant past, because a strikingly similar situation happened 72 years ago, around another life-changing, well, literally life-changing discovery, the discovery of the century, the DNA double helix. And understanding that story can help us see where AI might be heading. Welcome to the Scripter channel. Here we try to understand AI and how it is changing the world around us. And I'm Scripter, an AI researcher and a behavioral economist. After graduating from Columbia University in New York, I've spent 5 years in China as a Forbes columnist. If there is one thing we know about Elon Musk and Sam Altman, is that their relation is personal. They co-founded OpenAI, shared a long history, and then parted ways, and not exactly on friendly terms. Multiple lawsuits followed, with Musk accusing Altman of straying from the original non-profit vision for OpenAI, and basically effectively turning OpenAI into a Microsoft subsidiary. So here we have a typical love story gone sour. But then, just 2 weeks ago, DeepSeek appeared. DeepSeek is a Chinese startup claiming to make AI models much cheaper, potentially even free. And that could let China overtake American AI companies entirely. Now we have a classic love triangle: Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and DeepSeek. Let's rewind to 1953. Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin were working side by side on what would become the biggest discovery of the 20th century: the structure of DNA, the secret of life. They started together, but soon clashed. Well, professional relationships can be just as turbulent as personal ones. Rosalind reportedly didn't think that Maurice was bright enough. Then a third person entered the scene: James Watson. At the time, he was just a 25-year-old PhD candidate, an unknown figure who came out of nowhere to study DNA. But Watson had one great talent: communication skills. In other words, a talent to make friends. One day, angry Maurice Wilkins showed Watson a crucial piece of Rosalind Franklin's data, what's now known as B form of DNA, this image right here. So this was the missing puzzle piece Watson needed to crack the double helix structure. Let me read what James Watson wrote about how all this happened. Suddenly, Rosie came from behind the lab bench that separated us and began moving toward me. Fearing that in her hot anger she might strike me, I hastily retreated to the open door. My escape was blocked by Maurice, who, searching for me, had just then stuck his head through. While Maurice and Rosie looked at each other over my slouching figure, I lamely told Maurice that the conversation between Rosie and me was over, and that I had been about to look for him in the tea room. So, if you ask my opinion, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see a love triangle. This is a love triangle, a professional one. And then finally, Maurice went into the adjacent room to pick up a print of the new form they called the B structure. This is the B form, that famous image that enabled the DNA, the discovery of the DNA structure. According to Watson himself, that moment changed everything. Maurice, upset with Rosalind, handed over her key findings to a competitor. to Watson. And that's a classic love triangle played out in a professional context, and brutally so. The result? Well, James Watson became a scientific legend, like a science god, while Rosalind Franklin sadly passed away a few years later, largely unrecognized at the time. Personally, I admire James Watson's brilliance, but I can't help feeling for Rosalind and how unfair life was to her. Well, regardless, the DNA story shows us that professional love triangles can lead to unexpected and unpredictable outcomes. So we are back to 2025, to our time. So, what does it all tell us? What does it tell us about AI? Here's Sam Altman's reaction to the news that Elon Musk offered $97 billion for OpenAI.
Do you think Musk's approach then is from a position of insecurity about XAI?
Probably his whole life is from a position of insecurity. I feel for the guy.
You feel for him?
I do, actually.
If you ask me, as a behavioral scientist, this is a classic case of a professional love-hate relationship. It's a triangle. It's a triangle where, as the DNA story shows us, anything can happen. In other words, prepare for the unexpected. And now we get to our secret section. So if you ask me, hey, what do you think about all this situation about Sam Altman and Elon Musk and DeepSeek? Well, personally, I think that this is unbelievable. It is unbelievable the way how these personal relationships they're so obvious and they are so palpable. You can see it. And if we go back again to this DNA discovery, if we look at the past, and again, DNA discovery was, in my opinion, the largest discovery of the century, even bigger than the general relativity or the Max Planck's discovery of the quantum mechanics. The DNA discovery was much bigger. However, and we saw that DNA was very personally interconnected as well, right? However, the magnitude and the importance of DNA back then, at the time of discovery, was not understood. It was understood decades later. For example, it is famous in one of his interviews, James Watson later, well, quite obscure interview, but he basically said that they couldn't even file a patent for the discovery of the DNA helix, double helix structure. The patent clerk or lawyer, he basically said that, like, hey, what's the commercial value in this? Like, what's the point of getting a patent on the double helix structure of DNA? Can you believe it? So they did not file the patent. This is true story. And it was actually Stanford University later on who got the majority of the patents on this. Incredible. So what I'm saying here is that the value and importance of that discovery of the DNA became obvious decades later. But with AI, it is obvious now. It is very clear that this is the most important discovery right now. We're talking about years and maybe even months. Whoever gets a hold of this discovery, and well, we don't even know how exactly that will look like, but it is nearly a certainty that this is the biggest thing in our sandbox. There's nothing bigger than that, and its value is obvious right now. It's already materialized, the value of this discovery, and it is the whole thing is hanging on this network of personal relationship between just a very few people. You don't have to be very good at understanding the human psychology, but just the idea that the well, technically entire world now depends on this very fragile human relationships. And again, the important thing is that the human relationships, they by definition very, what's the word, is fickle, right? Today it's one thing, tomorrow it's another thing. It just depends on so many factors. Somebody didn't have a breakfast and got upset, and here we go. The future of the humankind turns another way. I think we're getting very close to this, the butterfly effect, where even a tiniest thing that can change the whole direction of the entire history. And that's the situation we're dealing with here. So it's definitely not going to be boring. And yeah, so I think in our case, there's not much we can do. So we are in a passenger seat, and we just in a shotgun seat. We just looking around in astonishment and like, wow. Yeah, but what can we do? So all we can do is to observe, which is what we do here on Scripted channel. We observe and we try to understand what is going on. So join us. Yeah, by the way, using this opportunity, if you guys haven't subscribed to the newsletter yet, I don't see any reasons why you shouldn't do it. And the newsletter is right here, and you can also find it in the description below. That's all from me. It is Scripter. It's about 3 a.m. in Sydney, where I'm right now, and I'm signing off. We'll see you soon. See you on the other side, guys.